So welcome to the Haney Biz Huddle. This week, we are very fortunate to have one of the leaders of the Sacramento business community, Amanda Blackwood. She's the leader, president and CEO, I believe, at the Sac Metro Chamber. And I think one of the things I'm realizing is that in this virus, COVID crisis timeframe, there's certain people, certain organizations that are emerging as the true leaders of the Sacramento region. And I mean, when you think about the resource that is Sac Metro, you think, all right, that's great. They've been around forever. They're huge. But like for them to be able to pivot so quickly to understand what's happening and put themselves in a position to know what's going on with the SBA, what's happening with HR regulations, all the things that are changing virtually daily, right? And you think about, as you're an entrepreneur or a small business person, who do you want to put in your life? What community do you want to be a part of? You want to be a part of one that is engaged, nimble, resourceful, and I think that's what we have today. So as we think about perseverance, and a lot of us are sort of in that mode, how am I going to get through this, right? Face the brutal facts as we know them, yet maintain that unwavering belief that in the end, everything's going to be okay. You think about who those people are in your life. So today, I'm privileged to have Amanda Blackwood, but I'm also privileged to have this man, my friend, your friend, the vice president of Haney Biz, Mr. Rick Spencer, the brainchild behind this whole thing, along with the rest of our teammates. So as we see our entrepreneurial friends start logging on, Rick, I want to say thank you to you for doing this huddle, for helping me, helping Amanda to help the rest of the community. So Rick, maybe you can kind of lead into this thing a little bit for us.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. It's exciting to see. We've got some usual suspects, Jeff Halston with his evening Manhattan ready to go. So appreciate
I'm waiting till 5 o'clock, and then I'm going to bring out my evening dream.
So we've got some people that have been supporting us for several weeks, and then some new people and some new faces. So I'm really excited to see the community grow and support each other. And like you said, Mark, having an expert like Amanda on today, CEO of the Metro Chamber, I think we're extremely fortunate to be so well connected with such knowledge and expertise. The only thing I would say is, the last couple of weeks, it was so much PPP, and I think there's still some of that. But that certainly is starting to settle down. And this week, I've just been having so many great conversations along with our accounting team, supporting companies on their financial planning, looking at new partnerships, looking at mergers, looking at pivoting. So it's moved on from the chaos of the SBA stuff to really strategy, and I think that's where I get the most excited. I think you do too, Mark. Is where we are. The financial stuff is essential. It's important. It's necessary. But the details were just changing so quickly. It was hard to keep up and very fatiguing. And now being able to settle a little into that and dig into the strategy has just been great. To support so many companies through Haney Biz and through our accounting team has just been really rewarding for me personally, and I know the rest of the team. So
me too. And what we vowed through, whether it be the Haney Biz Huddle or Hanging with Haney or Haney Biz Happy Hour, whatever flavor we give to this, we've sort of vowed that if there's an entrepreneur out there with a question or an idea they want to use Haney Biz as a sounding board, I will be there throughout the crisis. It may be 5 days a week, 1 day a week. It started 5 days a week, I think, for the last couple of weeks. We may do it a little less as things taper, but we'll be there for every last one of the entrepreneurs. And really, there's entrepreneurs that sort of want to be there for one another as well. So we're going to continue to provide some format for entrepreneurs to help other entrepreneurs moving forward. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so a little bit of format for those that are new to our huddle. We have our special guest, Amanda Blackwood with the Metro Chamber. So we're going to let her just talk about the landscape she's seeing and some of the critical updates. Certainly, if you have questions of her directly, feel free to submit them in the chat and we'll get those. And then we'll keep, the last half of the huddle to experience sharing, sharing anything that you need as far as challenges you're facing, introductions, opportunities, really how we can help you through our community efforts. So feel free throughout to chat with us and we'll get to those questions. We'll unmute you as we go through, but without further ado, Amanda, take it away.
Well, thank you so much again for having me. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Rick. Thank you for Monique for always hurting all of us cats. And thank you for all of you for your time today. So maybe I'll share a little bit about what we're getting the most right now, and then you guide me if there's any question or resource that we can provide. So to exactly Mark and Rick's point, I think the conversations we've been having this week have really been more about how do I pivot? How do I position for the future? I know that that crush of it's the SBA and the EDL program and the PPP and I got to get in. And there was that emotional flurry and kind of rush to the market. And now, I think I feel like I'm a broken record on this. And I know, Mark, we talked about this the last time we spoke, but taking on debt is a strategic choice, that a business really needs to think through and ask yourself those questions of, if I was not okay in Q4 of 2019, is now the time that I go accrue more debt? And does that make sense for me? And should I collateralize my house? And should I put up my equipment? And those are questions as entrepreneurs that you are asking yourself all the time. And something we see even more so in the sole proprietor entrepreneurship is your business is your life. And it's easy to say, okay, well, I'll put up the house and the car and the stuff and I'll, let's go through the savings and let's deplete. And it takes a lot of discipline to slow down and say, okay, given my industry, given my business, does it make sense for me, even if it's 1% debt, does it make sense for me to go down this road and start stacking those things up when I don't know if I'm going to have that payroll and I don't know if I'm going to have that rent and I'm making decisions now that are going to determine my future for 12, 18, 24 months, right? And those are big choices. I think there was a danger in that seems like really low interest money. So it's free money. I should go get it. That PPP is not free money, right? That's a loan and it's guaranteed by a variety of things. So I know we've been having those conversations a lot. We did a Facebook Live with the Bee earlier today, just to give that kind of public PSA that, yes, these tools are great. And yes, you should activate those tools. But depending on the business you're in, it may make sense to lay off that team and have unemployment be the route that may put more cash in their pocket, right? So it's really that financial exercise of look at the options, you plot it on the spreadsheet. There's no risk in modeling. You're not making any decisions. You're just going through that exercise of methodically, given all the tools that are available, what's going to help me right now, what's going to position me in 6 months, where am I going to be in 12? And I think the other big lesson that we've taken away to exactly as Mark and Rick teed it up today is, as a human person, you have finite energy. And as entrepreneurs, you're always thinking about what's the ROI on this effort. And you may be in a position where you say, going through all of those file folders and finding those payroll records and going the PPP, that is the best route. Or might I have a latent revenue stream in my business that I have always thought about doing, but I didn't quite activate? And now is the moment for me to lean into that and see if that is the right use of my time. For our nonprofits, I know we chase grants, and you may put 80 hours of work into $5,000. That may make sense, that may not make sense. For a lot of us, your lender may be very flexible right now, and they are offering a 6-month deferral on payments that don't even go get new debt. Just be creative with what you've got. we're hearing more and more from our lending community. Just call and ask from your landlord, just picking up the phone. You know, it's a quote we say in our office all the time: never be afraid to lose what you don't have now. All they're going to say is no. You don't have a 6-month deferral with free rent right now. You might as well ask. And who knows, maybe you get it, maybe you get 3 months, maybe, you know, you get 1. So as entrepreneurs, you are brave and you are passionate and you are often willing to make those asks. But really now is that moment. Your future's in your hands, and just making that ask may be the very best tool available to you. We've got restaurant clients that went back to their patrons and said, we plan on being here for the next 6 months. Would you buy gift cards now? Because that gift card revenue will help me pay my payroll and I don't need to incur any debt, right? So it's getting creative. It's thinking about all the tools. You know that there are people that are pivoting, and not doing anything is probably the most risky thing you could do. Evaluating all of these tools, it puts your destiny in your own hands, and who better to decide your future than you? Because no one is more passionate about your family and you and your business than you are. So, you know, that's what I say. You know what you're doing. That's why you went into business in the first place, and you are holding your destiny in your hands. So get creative.
Well, one of the things I think as entrepreneurs that helps us make these decisions, obviously, is this knowledge. Maybe you can sort of enlighten us on some of the daily changes that have happened. I know today the governor got up and spoke. I'm sure you're aware of that. We know that there's discussion of new stimulus. We know that there's a likelihood that we're going to run out of money at some level, and the PPPs may get, you know, it was kind of a hassle getting them going because it got done so quickly, and now there's, you know, they're going to run out of money at some level here very quickly. So what are you hearing? Get us up to speed on the news, and so that maybe we can pepper you with some questions around, you know, what does that look like for survival and maybe for when they're going to reopen the economy at some level?
Great question. So obviously no crystal ball, so I'm going to give you world by me. So you take that for what it's worth. But it is an informed opinion. So big picture, right? I think everyone at the federal level knows great first start, but there are some gaps, and that funding at the PPP level as currently authorized looks like it's on track to max out. So all the conversations at the federal level are, we want to continue to fund the PPP. We think it is a good tool. So the intent is that more funding is going to come through that toolkit, particularly being mindful that, remember, right, you've got regs coming out on a Thursday night. You've got banks told that they're supposed to be open for business at 3 p.m. the next day. What? You know, we're just trying to figure out what the underwriting criteria are. And with those federal programs, they all have to use the E-Trans system. So they're, you know, it's a system that's not particularly set up for flexibility. So honestly, I mean, your banking partners were in a position going, given our interpretation of the regs, we're going to try to underwrite these as best we can, knowing that people are pulling together a robust set of documents to be able to do that. And the last thing they want to do, knowing that as a borrower, you want cash in hand, is to go, yep, we submitted everything. And then 2 weeks later, it all pushed back and go, oh, we didn't check this box. We didn't turn in this thing. So, you know, that's real. I think the reality for your local lenders is your community banks got to their lending limits real quick, and their balance sheets also have to reflect a appropriate risk balance. So, you know, a community bank can't go all in and say 80% of our business is PPP, right? They've got to balance that balance sheet and ensure that they're capitalized. Your larger banks were a little slower to open because they're obviously a big ship and they're trying to turn the whole team, and made the conscious choice that, you know, not to wonk out too much on the banking side, but the know your customer regulations that exist at the bank often require that they have interviewed you. They may require a site visit. So if you were already a commercial borrower, you're through those hoops. So they were able to say, hey, you know, unfortunately, due to the volume, we're going to open it just to our clients because you're already through that. And, you know, maybe non-clients will try to get to. At this point, you do have, from a large lending standpoint, U.S. Bank is willing to entertain non-U.S. Bank customers. But, you know, you don't have a lot of other lenders locally that are willing to do that at this point. So that's kind of what's happening. So federally, they're saying, yep, stimulus bill 4, we definitely want to continue to fund the PPP. So is that in the can? No, but that's the intention. So I wouldn't be concerned, and this would be reiterated by our SBA director. If you weren't already in the PPP and you're thinking, is it even worth it? Because they might run out of money. Definitely they're intending on funding that. So don't not do it because of that. Don't do it because you don't want it. But that shouldn't be the thing that's holding you back. So that's that change. Then on the EDL side of the house, I think a lot of very small businesses saw, in an attempt for the SBA to keep that funded, they originally said $10,000 potential forgivable. They've now changed that and come out and said, well, it's more like $1,000 per employee up to 10. So they are very aware that there are small businesses that were in that pipeline that are thinking they're going to get 10 grand that aren't. It's going to be based on head count. And, you know, we brought it up on our call with the SBA this morning. I talked to their director every day at 8:30 and said, hey, it feels like a little bait and switch. And they acknowledged, yeah, we get that, but we're going to run out before it's refunded through another bill. And we want to try to get as much cash as we can. So, you know, that's changing at that level. No, from a Metro Chamber hat, we talk to your congressional reps every day, if not multiple times every day. So the more that we get about, hey, that was great, but I'm a independent contractor and I wasn't able to apply. I'm a salon and this doesn't work for me. I can't get unemployment, or they're telling me that I can't. You know, we're feeding them that information every day and they're debating it on the floor. So definitely keep the data coming. From the insurance side, that's also been a question folks have had. Hey, I went back to my policy, doesn't cover this. What do we do? To which there was pushback on, well, can we make the insurance commissioner make an allowance? At this point, they've said, no, that would bankrupt the insurance business, so we're not going to do that. However, don't not make a claim, because if it's worth the time for you, the data on how many people are making those claims and being denied may change insurance policy in the future. So, and not to be doom and gloom, but the reality of a virus could very well be you see a lull, we go into a period of time, and then it comes back. So changes in your insurance policy in 6 months, pandemic effects on your business, may be a very valid claim, right? So as you kind of navigate that, you just reach out and make those claims and make the choice that's right for you. But I think that's happening at a federal level. I will let you know, we've had those conversations at the state level. Might there be a stimulus that kind of fills some of these gaps while we're waiting for the feds to sort themselves out? Multiple senators, same answer, probably not. They're not feeling that there's funding at the state level that is going to be able to get cash in hand. They're really focused on getting the EDD up to speed. So I wouldn't hold out hope for that, but you know, you never know. You never know what happens. I think where we have leverage at the state level from an advocacy standpoint is maybe loosening some regulation, or could we talk about AB5 again? And you got gig economy on turbo blast right now, and you're getting a lot of feedback from those workers that we'd really could just table that. Can we just get to work? So, you know, your environment at the state level is changing a little bit. I think at the federal level, they're really focused on keeping this thing funded and keeping it going. This next stimulus bill, I would anticipate some infrastructure spending specifically for our region. So what we're hearing from our business community, 5G and broadband has never been more needed. I think we experienced on our setup for our call today, particularly our rural businesses that are going, what am I supposed to do here? I mean, I can't get consistent signal. So thanks for the tips on using Zoom to communicate with my staff, but I can't get it to work more than 30 seconds. right? So that's kind of infrastructure things that we know we need for now and that we know we need for our recovery is really where your advocacy organizations are pushing hard at the U.S. Chamber level, at the Cal Chamber level, and definitely at the local level.
That's cool. Well, I heard Governor Newsom had a list of 6 things that he was going to require to begin opening up the economy. I think it was at 2:00. There was a press conference. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I heard that there were 6 things that made it sound like it was not going to open tomorrow, right? So any anticipation on the medical front, because it looks like the curve, if you will, has flattened out. California has done a good job. The county that I live in, Placer County, I think has done an excellent job comparatively. So generally, it feels like California is cooperating in a really cool way, or maybe we're all immune to it from other stuff we get ourselves into. I'm not sure, but like we haven't got it so bad. What do you think? Get out your crystal ball. When are we going to be able to sit in a restaurant 6 foot apart from one another?
So that's a great question. And I think if anyone's following the news right now, they know there's a little tension between the president and the governors. I think the president restated that I get to decide, but also we'll work with the governors, right? And you've got on the West Coast, you've got your governors, obviously California, Washington, and Oregon saying, hey, we worked well together on the fires. Let's work well together now. So you kind of have a interesting tension there. But with that said, we have posed this question to both Congressman Barra and Senator Pan in a, hey, you're both small business owners and doctors. You know, what are you, crystal ball, what do you see? And their candid feedback is that the timing, there's two key pieces to the being back to what normal is. One is just the antibody testing. And if we can accelerate that, which everyone in California is putting full court press on, if we can get you tested, then we know who has it, we know who doesn't, we know who has immunity. And then from a scientific standpoint, we can say, okay, the numbers make sense, the coast is clear. Is that going to be within the next 2 weeks? I don't think so. Is that going to be within the next 6 to 8? More likely. Knowing they're pushing it and there's pressure, right, coming from the Fed, but and there's a commitment in California to not rush, and it will be interesting politically to see how that plays out. But from a data standpoint, it's the testing. And once the testing is ubiquitous, then we know coast is clear. Then you enter phase 2, which is consumer sentiment, right? And we may say, it's great, go to restaurants. Okay, but I don't know how you are all feeling. Do you want to do that or not?
So we want to have this, we're going to break this conversation into 2 parts. So we have about another 5 minutes left on this part, but I want to make sure Rick is brought back in. Are there questions from our audience of Amanda for the next 5 or 7 minutes? And then we're going to let you go, Amanda. I mean, you're obviously welcome to stick around, but we want to get entrepreneurs talking to one another, do Q&A with me if that's helpful, but make sure that we exhaust anything that Rick is hearing from our audience.
Yeah, so feel free to submit questions on the chat. But Amanda, going back to what Mark said about the governor's press conference today, I think one thing that would be very interesting to have the chamber comment on is this redrawing of floor plans was the direct quote from Governor Newsom about, you know, changing societal infrastructure and what businesses should be thinking about as restrictions are reduced or removed. What are you seeing as far as, you know, the expertise out there, or businesses that are part of the chamber that are helping other businesses? Can you speak a little bit about the planning and the documentation and the coordination that's going on in anticipation of change?
So great question. And we get asked this, you know, when do we go back to normal? And, you know, I think it's a dynamic conversation on what we knew is probably not going to be what we know when we come back. So will we still go to restaurants? Absolutely. But will offices start to say, hey, Tuesdays and Thursdays work from home? Are our public sector offices, because they are now embracing technology in a new way, if you can do permit checks remote, shouldn't we have that all the time? Right? So you're very much seeing that this move towards a remote workplace, both in the public and private sector, in some hybrid model, is probably going to stay. And so, what are people doing? They're planning for that. And they're saying, okay, what is it to be on the cloud? What is it to be if I don't have to have an office space? What does it look like if half my employees work from home? And from an HR perspective, how do I manage that? What does productivity look like in a remote environment that's not in a crisis, but is, businesses that normally operate in a remote way, such as our accounting teams are going, this is no different for us. This is what we always do. So definitely that, and culturally, your team may now be accustomed to, I get up and put on my PJs and I work from my desk and I got just as much done as I did before. So no, I don't want to drive myself in at 8 a.m. And we're digitally connecting in a new way. So I definitely think that a high emphasis on culture, and I know, Mark, this is something you hold near and dear to your team, is the companies that have pivoted, they had a connected, communicative, shared values culture, which allowed them to say, hey, we're all going to operate differently. Now get on board, right? That requires human buy-in and emotion and motivation, and making sales calls from home may be a lot more difficult than when your boss was watching you do it. So if you don't coach, if you didn't have a strong culture to begin with, you're probably struggling. So from an IT standpoint, we're preparing for remote. From a culture standpoint, how do I create connectivity and positive buy-in to like this new way of doing things if we're going to operate in a new way?
Hey, Jeff, you sent me an email that had a question about a company that you maybe saw mentioned, Jeff Halston, Eco Alpha, that maybe was mentioned by Amanda.
So Amanda, the chamber sent an email out today about Eco Alpha, which maybe you don't know about that email, but it was an interesting Sacramento-based company that does office hygiene. Which
what's interesting, Jeff?
I mean, I got to be honest. Personally, I have my PPP loan was actually funded already, so I'm past that, and now I'm thinking about I'm 2 weeks in the future, and I'm thinking about pulling everybody back together now. And obviously, there's a new paradigm. It's what you were just talking about. And I'm a civil engineer. I don't know anything about that. I know you sneeze into your elbow. So we as business owners have to come up with a fairly robust program immediately to assure that our workers are safe when they come back. I just saw the email 15 minutes before we started this, and it came from the chamber, and I was really interested about that.
Hey, Jeff, just as coincidentally, so I didn't know where this question was going. I'm investing into Eco Alpha. Like, that's one of my portfolio companies. The paper is over there for me to sign, or my DocuSign. I'm on the doorstep of an investment into that company. Maybe I should bump up my investment.
No, I mean, it was funny because what my thought was, oh my God, talk about right place, right time. I mean, these guys, their biggest problem is going to be handling the volume. I mean, it's brilliant. I read about us, they were established in 2013, so they've been around 7 years waiting for the pandemic, and now it's here. So, but in general, I mean, the chamber's always been pretty good about labor guidance and all those things, and I think this sanitation, whatever we call it, industrial hygiene guidance is going to be the next big.
My son happens to sell that stuff too. He has an industrial supply company and sells hand sanitizer and masks and stuff like that. So. Mostly to the state and stuff like that. But.
Right. Well, and Jeff, just like people going back to restaurants as a community, employees coming back to the workplace and feeling safe, if you don't think it's going to affect your productivity, it is. So it may be, I think you're 100% right, that just creating that safe space for people to feel okay is something that we have to think about that we probably weren't doing 3 months ago. So the cloud-based storage, all that, it's Amanda, real.
Where has OSHA been? I haven't, I turn on the news all the time and I never hear anything about OSHA or Cal OSHA. whoever they are, they're supposed to be our watchdog on protecting our employees. Not that I
Right.
want
Well,
them
I
in
can't
my
speak.
backyard.
Yeah, let's not
Are you
wish for that.
involving OSHA?
I'm not asking for them, but where are they?
Right. So, from our perspective, what we've seen is just best practice. It's a reinstatement of what CDC guidelines are, and that's, really where they're coming at. But, I can't overemphasize enough. There's a scientific safety, and then there's the emotional part of that team member. I'll give you, for instance, my dad works in the wine industry, which is essential and is up, right? Sales of alcohol, wine, and spirits are up, and they're ramping up production. Right. And he's a supervisor managing a large warehouse. And it was just that, they went through this is fun fact, went through a process of they have sticks and they're 6 feet long. And if you feel that anyone is in your space, you can hold out your stick and you can say that is not adequate social distancing. It's a tool we would have never thought to have. But, it makes those team members feel empowered over their own health and safety. So these are all things as business owners that you're going to tackle that are new and crazy and not anticipated. But the quicker you can do it and create that safe space for your people to feel engaged and okay, that's it. And you could find some of those resources from a practical standpoint, rapidresponse.metrochamber.org. We've got a whole workplace safety module. So feel free to poke around and you'll see what the regs are, but the over and above is going to be what you do as a manager to create that space.
So Amanda, the other thing I haven't talked to the guys about yet, though, is over the weekend, we're an essential business. So we're operating as a manufacturing company. We actually received an email from the county as an essential business requiring a operating plan, which my people worked over the weekend and filed. And it included things we were already doing because we're using National Association of Manufacturers guidelines, but it included posters and there was all kinds of crap, basically. I mean, I'm a little nervous that the county is out in front of industry. I mean, I'm generally speaking, I'd like to be ahead of the county. And I'm just wondering, will the chamber, do you guys have anybody that's going to be doing that kind of stuff? I mean, I'm not even sure what I'm asking for.
Right. So great question. And we talk to the county constantly, right, on issues like this. And you've had, to the county's defense, they're trying to do their best, but you've got people that were essential businesses that were told not to be open. And then we pushed back and said, no, I think they really can if they can show, proper protocol. So I think you have that instance of your local government is trying to navigate as quickly as they can, most of them remote, and they're having communication challenges because they're not built for remote work. They're not built for agility, and they don't know. So those are the instances, and by all means, you can always call your county, you can call them yourself, but where I would encourage you, lean into your chamber, be it us, be it whatever local chamber that you're a member of, to help you fight that fight, because if you're experiencing it, multiple people are experiencing it, and that's where we like to come from coalition standpoint and say, hey, we need clarity for our manufacturers. Here is the letter, here is the steps, clarify this, and then we can get a formal response back so that you don't feel like you're going it alone or it's piecemeal.
Should we call anonymously or should we identify ourselves?
You do what you feel is right for you when you make that OSHA call, Mark. But often, right, and not to be self-aggrandizing, but that is, and Jay knows as well, that's where your chamber is your buffer. So we're asking for business and, hey, I got a coalition of 7 manufacturers, we need clarity, as opposed to Jeff going, hey, here's my company, my address, my thing, don't know if I'm doing it right. Lean into your advocate to give you a little bit of space.
That's awesome. Well, Amanda, thank you very much for joining us. You're a wealth of knowledge, but you're also one of those people that I think you have a calming tone, a reassurance from you. I think settles us in a little bit. So thank you very much for the leadership in the community and for kind of putting us all a little more at ease as we go through this.
Well, it's my pleasure. And if there is any group of people that's got the toolkit to navigate, it is this group. So you're going to be okay. We're here for you. Please reach out if there's anything we can do to be of service anytime. You're in great hands with Mark. You could not be with better leadership. So as always, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching today's show. My goal for every episode is that you find a takeaway, something tangible you can use in your business today. And if you have a comment about a favorite takeaway, feel free to put it in the box below. And if you have a topic that you'd like me to bring up on the show, don't forget to let me know. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. Because at Haney Biz, we are always by your side.